In The Departed, the death of Sullivan at the hands of Dignam is a shocking and pivotal moment in the film. While the reasons for Sullivan's demise may seem straightforward at first, the motives behind Dignam's actions are quite possibly more complex and mysterious. What drove Dignam to commit such a brutal act of violence? What possible theories will we find if we dig a little deeper into the film The Departed? Set in Boston, the movie tells a story of two men who are both undercover agents working for different sides of the law. Billy Costigan, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is a young cop tasked with infiltrating the inner circle of a powerful Irish-American mob led by Frank Costello, played by Jack Nicholson. Meanwhile, Colin Sullivan, played by Matt Damon, a member of Costello's mob, has infiltrated the Massachusetts State Police Special Investigative Unit. The ending of The Departed, in which a sergeant named Dignam shoots dead the mole, Sullivan, planted by Costello and the state police, is only one example of the film's abundance of Easter eggs. Such an ending was completely unexpected and left a lot of room for interpretation, particularly about Dignam's motives for killing Sullivan, and this is where our questions come from. Mark Wahlberg portrays the rough and violent character of Sergeant Sean Dignam, a staff sergeant for the Special Investigations Unit of the Massachusetts State Police. He's a cop well known for his tough exterior and no-nonsense demeanor. Dignam is devoted to his boss, Captain Oliver Queenan, played by Martin Sheen, and the tough sergeant will go to any lengths to keep his boss and the police crew safe. He also has serious doubts about Costigan, the undercover policeman charged with infiltrating the Irish mob. Dignam is portrayed as a highly confrontational cop who is always ready to resort to violence. He is well known for his quick wit and sarcastic sense of humor, and is notorious for frequently cussing and using crude remarks and slurs to get his point across. In this intricate Scorsese crime drama, a game of cat and mouse ensues as both men advance through the ranks of their respective assignments and learn of each other's existence. The cat who eventually gets the rat is Dignam, who kills Sullivan because he discovers that Sullivan was the plant within the police department who had been working for Costello. He becomes suspicious of Sullivan when he discovers that Sullivan's background and personal history are unknown, and that he's been fast-tracked through the police academy and assigned to the Special Investigations Unit without any prior experience. Dignam also becomes suspicious of Sullivan's behavior when he repeatedly warns Costello of police activity and seems to have an intimate knowledge of police procedures and strategies. As to the question of a rat, is it possible that Dignam killed Sullivan because he himself was a rat? Although some sources think this is a possibility, many believe it is unlikely. Dignam is shown throughout the film as a devoted and loyal officer who is committed to bringing justice to the corrupt cops and the crime syndicate. He is fiercely dedicated to upholding the law and defending the people of Boston, and he consistently acts out of a belief in his duty. And although a rat and a mole are two completely different kinds of traitors, they are traitors nonetheless, and the film makes it clear that Sullivan, not Dignam, was a mole. The mole, to be exact. So, to answer the question, it is highly unlikely that Dignam killed Sullivan because he himself was the rat, as some point out. His actions were most likely motivated by a need to protect the investigation instead, and to bring justice to the corrupt cops and the Irish mob. Infusing a hidden meaning in what is typical of Scorsese, the final shot of the film shows a rat scurrying across the balcony railing, which is a symbolic and powerful image that can be interpreted in many ways. Some say that the rat alludes to the idea that there has always been someone harboring secrets or lying, including law enforcement officials and criminals, and along with the obvious suspects, Vera Farmiga's character, the innocent-looking Madeline, as well as Costello's wife, Gwen, might also be complicit. How so? Well, it's because Madeline may have been lying when she told Sullivan that he was the father of her child, even if Costigan is believable as the real father. What could this mean? The rat typically represents betrayal, which is a central theme in the movie. At several points in the film, Costigan and Sullivan are depicted as rats, and it is their actions that ultimately cause a series of deaths. The rat's appearance in the last scene underscores the devastating consequences of betrayal and the toll it takes on both these men and on their community. It also symbolizes the cost of corruption and the damage it causes to the public at large. The film depicts a world where the line between law enforcement and organized crime is blurred, and the rat is a reminder of the insidious nature of corruption and its ability to undermine the foundations of society. The spotlight on a scurrying rat in the end may also emphasize the impossibility of escape from the consequences of one's actions. Both Costigan and Sullivan are shown as rats in the movie, and they ultimately meet their fates. The presence of the rat suggests that no one can escape the consequences of their actions, no matter how hard they try. That last shot of the rat is also ironic because it comes right after Sullivan's death. Sullivan was the mole in the police department, exposed and killed by Dignam. The presence of the rat in the end suggests that even though Sullivan has been eliminated, corruption and betrayal still exists and will continue to plague society. How did Dignam know Sullivan was the rat? There were several hints to help Dignam to know that Sullivan was the rat. Dignam was suspicious of Sullivan's behavior from the beginning. He noticed that Sullivan had a lot of information about the investigation, and he was always one step ahead of the police. This made Dignam suspect that Sullivan was the mole. In addition, Sullivan often had unexplained absences and would disappear for hours at a time. This behavior made Dignam even more suspicious of him. Some suspect that Dignam was working for someone else other than the state police, that he had ulterior motives that were anything other than official ones. Well, it is true that Dignam was working for the state police, specifically tasked with investigating organized crime in the Boston area, including the activities of Costello. But it is possible that Dignam also had personal motivations when he killed Sullivan. Explicit evidence to support this theory is elusive. Nevertheless, it is an interesting theory that puts forward the notion that Dignam was serving his own brand of justice. So, is it possible that Dignam's actions in killing Sullivan were partially motivated by a desire for revenge? Avenging someone's death is romanticized in film. It idolizes Dignam's actions as something of a revenge kill for the deaths of Queenan and Costigan, both of whom were killed by members of Costello's mob. However, I'm brought back to the main reason why Dignam killed Sullivan. His actions in killing Sullivan were part of the larger mission. So, as interesting as the theory is, it seems unlikely Dignam acted solely for personal reasons when he killed Sullivan. While Dignam was certainly affected by the deaths of Queenan and Costigan, we mustn't forget his primary motivation. We can speculate all we want, but as the screen fades to black and the credits roll, we're left with other burning questions. What does Dignam's killing of Sullivan truly represent? And what does it say about the nature of justice and morality in the world of the departed? With its complex characters and intricate plot, this film leaves us with more questions than answers, and begs for deeper exploration and analysis. As we sit in silence, contemplating the last impact of this gripping story, one thing is certain: the legacy of Dignam's actions will continue to haunt us long after the film's final frame.